All right.
Okay, we are live.
All right. Welcome everyone to the Spartans Have Spoken podcast. I'm Ryan Weingarten from season 1 of Survivor MSU, and we're here today to recap the premiere episode of Survivor 47, or some might say Survivor 47. And I'll be the first one to admit, this has been my favorite premiere of the new era. But joining me today is my fellow co-host. First off, the president of Survivor MSU, everyone's favorite theater girl, Miss Ava Bala. Ava, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's also Bala, but
Bala.
it was a good attempt at my last name. Nobody can get it right. But yeah, I am the current president and one of the hosts of Survivor MSU, and obviously love talking about Survivor, so hence I'm here. And then if Kristian wants to introduce himself as well.
I had an intro for Kristian, but
Oh, go ahead. You can intro
yep,
him.
well, also joining us, the guy who can wear the Q skirt better than almost anyone besides Q himself, from season 3 of Survivor Michigan State, the vice president and co-host, some might call him the Chorkster, Mr. Kristian Chorky. Kristian, how are you?
Doing good, Ryan. Excited to be on the podcast to talk about the episode. And yeah.
Yeah, so I said this earlier. I think this was the best episode of the new era so far when it comes to premieres. I thought we had a lot of action, we got a lot of good camp life, a lot of good strategy. One of the first blindsides for the first episode of the new era in a while. I did not see this coming. What did you guys think about John being the first boot?
Robbed King. No, I was so upset. I really like John. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about Andy going forward, but John was robbed. Like that's my big takeaway. Robbed.
I thought John was a good player. He tried to play early to blindside Annika and it backfired on him. I thought he deserved better, and yeah, he had a lot of hype going into the episode, so I expected him to do better.
Yeah, John is probably the most famous person to play in the new era. We've had a lot of like ex-NFL players. We had Mike White a few years ago in Survivor 37, but he's a very famous podcaster with millions of followers, yet no one knew who he was on his tribe. Like, if he was on a different tribe, maybe he'd do a little bit better.
I didn't know who he was either. Not that I listened to like all the podcasts in the world, but I wouldn't have picked up on who he was. But I don't know, like I don't know the level of his fame in terms of if you're not somebody who is like in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned about John Lovett basically when the 47 premiere, like the promo aired, because he was the first line, I believe. And that's why I'm just shocked that he went out so early. I thought he would do well, because usually when you get featured in the promo, you do well. Not the
I was
case.
gonna say this guy missed 6 weeks of his podcast with millions of listeners just to be voted out on like what, day 3? Like what?
So sad.
Yeah, so let's talk about John a little bit. Let's just recap the episode. First off, let's talk about the marooning. It's been a little different than we've had previous seasons. Everyone's just on a different location. They're all like really excited. What did you guys think of the marooning?
You know what I picked up on that I thought was interesting, and I don't know if I just haven't been paying attention in previous premieres, but I feel like Jeff was like explaining the show more than normal. Like he was trying to like rebrand it almost, and I liked it, but it felt a little kitschy to me at some points. I was like, why like this is season 47, like it was almost like welcome to this new show that is in season 6 of the new era and 47 overall, and I thought it was a little weird. Like it was fun, but it was a little campy for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, because he completely took Survivor in a new way. He was talking about the community and the building of a tribe. That's something he hasn't done before. Like 46's premiere, his first line was like, one of you is not going to win. One of you is going to be the first boot. And yeah, he definitely took the community approach. I also like the new location they used and the jungle challenge. That was pretty cool. They haven't done like going into the jungle since like 42, I think. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. It seemed like when a few years ago we were focusing on the monster, Survivor being this big monster of like how you can conquer this. But with this season, they focus more on the overall community of this show. Saying how, listen, all you're going to forge your own paths. Path might lead you the right way, some paths might lead you the wrong way. But Jeff was really toning into the fact that everyone has a different journey for Survivor, and they're all to like make a community while playing this game, which is really interesting to think because this is kind of the original approach of the show. Just kind of channeling their roots from like season 1, season 2, season 3, and the new era, which we really haven't seen before. But let's talk about the cast itself. Like any initial impressions from the cast, first introductions, anyone stand out?
Ooh. Pre-season, like Genevieve's like pre-game interview, like video thing they put up on the TikTok, like on social media, like she stood out to me so much. And then I didn't see her at all in the first episode. I was like, my winner pick, where is she? Like,
She had some moments.
I felt like not a lot. So I wanted her to be like there. And I was like, wow, I didn't see a lot of her. There were a couple people I didn't see a lot of. I didn't see a lot of her. I feel like we saw a little bit of Teeny, but like not as much as I would have liked to see. A lot of the girls I feel like we didn't see a lot of, or like Soul. We didn't see him at all.
Yeah, where was Soul?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
he was the same. He was just vanished in the first episode. But I really like Asia. Obviously, like she's another one of the podcast world people. She was like between her and Genevieve for my winner pick. I feel a little more strongly now that I may have made the wrong choice based on the edit because we didn't see Genevieve at all. But I'm still going for her. She's gonna win. I believe in her. But yeah, obviously Asia stood out to me as a great character, and she went on the like journey is not the right word, but to like try and get the camp supplies, even though she lost. Again, robbed.
Well, speaking of Rob is a podcast, one of the best podcasts in the Survivor atmosphere. Asia has been podcasting for them since around 2020. She's part of the class of 2020. She is one of the best commentators they have because she is so personable. She actually podcasts about, I believe, Married at First Sight, a show that I've never seen, but she's one of the best Big Brother podcasters they've had. She's talked about Survivor. She's also really the first Rob as a podcaster, unless you want to like count Tyson and Winners of War to go on the show. So it's really cool to see her play. In fact, people even know who she is.
yeah, I think the fact that people know who she is could paint a target on her back. But as it was shown with Teeny, I believe, calling her out, um, like she dug herself out of that hole and she's now good with Teeny. I think she set herself up well on the tribe. Another standard I want to get into is TK. TK from the Blue Tribe had a very good episode. He got sent on the journey or the challenge with Aisha, and he won that, won his camp supplies. He also stumbled upon Gabe, I believe, looking for the Beware advantage, so he knows where that is too. And I just feel like he got developed really well in the first episode.
Yeah, TK kind of with a quiet premiere though, so he had a lot of highlights. He look at him, you think of this like just athletic football player, probably comp. He's just won a lot of immunity challenges. He was actually really strategic and personable. You saw him like Brumman with all the guys, made a big impact at the whole new version of Sweat vs. Savage. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but he had a really impressive premiere.
Yeah, speaking of Gabe and looking for the Beware advantage, like I feel like everybody who was involved with the Beware advantage this episode was really messy with it. Like especially Gabe, I feel like he was just like all over the road. And like I would be just exactly the same. So this is not me judging that like he did it poorly, but like that would be me. But I feel like he was just like running around and he wasn't really thinking about the other people's perceptions of him doing that, especially day 1, day 2, day 3. So I feel like though he has it, and he, I believe, chose the idol that's good for 3 rounds. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like he's gonna be in trouble if people start putting the pieces together that like he was being hella sketchy in that for those first couple days.
Hella sketchy is an understatement. I'll just put it like that. He made it very well known he was looking for stuff. Probably not the best look. I'm just kind of curious though, like let's say if you guys were playing Survivor and you found the Beware advantage, would you approach it like Gabe? Would you approach it more like Rome? Like how would you handle the situation?
Okay, so as somebody who has done a lot of idol searching in College Survivor, I would probably approach it like Gabe. Gabe played it off real well. Basically, when TK spotted him, Gabe was like, "Oh my God, I found the key before I found the first thing," and I feel like that was really good and kind of got the suspicion off of him. Definitely, that's how I would attempt it.
I would guaranteed immediately panic. Screw it up. I don't know. I don't know that he did pull it off well when he said that he found the key before the advantage. Like, I think, like, yes, that was super smart. Like, I never would have thought of that. I would have been screwed immediately. Like, thinking of that and saying it, genius. I don't know that he sold it because I don't believe everybody believed that he had just stumbled upon the key. Like, why would you be untwisting vines with a key? Like, what would you be doing
Camp
that
life.
for? Like, why would you be doing that? I would have had to come up with a reason of why I was messing with the vines in the first place to have seen the key. Like, you don't just walk around like, I wonder if there's any keys hanging from these vines. Maybe you do, but I wouldn't be doing that. So I'm sure I would have screwed it up immediately if I had ever found a beware advantage, but I don't know that my strategy would have been that, but I don't it's hard for me to put myself in that position because I just know I would be a disaster. So
Yeah, certainly was a interesting approach. I think he did handle it well on the fly. The issue is, do people believe him? Because in Survivor, perception is reality, and reality is reality. But I
Yep.
want to talk a little bit more, go a little bit backwards, just talk about all the tribes. Let's start off with the yellow tribe, which I believe is called Christian
Goda.
Goda. So Goda
Or
tribe, obviously, they won the first challenge, was able
gotta. It's
to
gotta. It's gotta.
gotta.
that's correct.
I'm a super fan. Tribe names are my one weakness. So Gata, they won the first challenge, get camp supplies immediately. What do you guys think about the initial tribe dynamics? Like, what was the things you noticed? What stood out in your eyes?
I was surprised by how quickly they put that puzzle together. Like
Hmm.
who was on the puzzle? It was Annika and Rachel?
I believe so, yeah.
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 I don't know how they like it seemed like, and I think this was editing as well, but it seemed like they went, okay, here we go. It was built. And none of the other tribes seemed to have any idea where to even start. So I'm like shocked at how well they did, especially because it seemed like communicating terribly pre that moment. Like one of the girls who's on the puzzle was like, I credit our win to our great communication. And maybe that was true on the puzzle, but up until the puzzle, I felt like they were a disaster. And they were clearly a disaster when they proceeded to lose the immunity challenge. So I think, I don't know, I'm just shocked that they like, it looked like magic. And that's something, again, I probably could never do. So I don't know how they did it, but I was impressed by that puzzle making ability. But it was clearly just that puzzle because in the immunity challenge, they fell apart.
Yeah, no, that was a classic Survivor comeback. I like that always happens in the first challenge. And another thing about the Gata tribe, I think the winner, not the winner, but like the best person on that tribe is Sierra, actually.
Oh, and
Sierra, I thought had a really good episode as well as Sam. But Sierra helped also win that puzzle and thought she did a really good job in that challenge.
that's
Yeah, they
really
were definitely. Go ahead, Ava.
Sierra didn't stand out to me at all in the episode. I don't know why. I feel like she just kind of flew under the radar for me. I thought the other two girls from Gata stood out to me a little bit more. But I really like Sierra, so I'm hoping to see more of her. She wasn't the person that stood out to me, interestingly.
See,
See,
that's
I
how I am with Rachel.
It's funny.
See, I kind of disagree with Ava on that. I think Sierra did stand out. She's a very interesting player 'cause she almost feels like she's like a mid-20s, kind of like Dark Age of Survivor character. She is someone who knows the game really well. She gives off recruit vibes because she is in the pageant world, but she's not a recruit. I think she understands the game pretty well. I think she's able to form good connections with both like a Sam, with a Rachel, with Monica. So I think she's in a good spot moving forward. Rachel, on the other hand, is kind of an interesting one because she was the alternate for last season of Survivor. So Survivor 46, she was the first alternate. So she's now back. She's trying to make it for herself, though. Maybe a little questionable of an episode, I'll put it like that.
Yeah, I don't know that Rachel stood out in the best way, but to me, Rachel stood out more as just like a presence. And I think it was her situation with Andy that kind of like stood out to me. I really like Rachel. I don't know that she's set herself up in the best spot, especially because she might get dragged down by Andy. I'll just possibly. But I just felt like she was like a person whose face I can picture in my head. And while I know who Sierra is, I'm like, what exactly did she do other than like vote in the majority?
Well, speaking of Andy, let's talk about probably the biggest character of the premiere. What happened? Like, survive. He is a super fan of Survivor. He is someone who knows this game incredibly well, has applied for years. I don't think he saw this coming.
No, he downward spiraled. I thought it was so funny the way it got edited when he cracked open the coconut and nobody cheered, and then he mentioned it later. It was just a great episode one meltdown. Honestly, a Banu style meltdown. So
Banu's
just
style is pretty good.
it happened a little bit earlier, so I think he's toast.
Yeah, I'm again gonna preface by saying that would be me 100%. Like, I fully would be in some sort of downward spiral immediately. Like, this is why I will not go on Survivor. That would be me. But I just feel like that's like you've watched the show, you're such a super fan, like that's how I am. I know myself enough to be like, that would not be a good idea for me, right? So I wonder if he was like afraid that something like that could happen, or if he really was just like completely blindsided by the fact that like his brain reacted that way and he just like completely spiraled. But I cannot believe he didn't get voted out. Like, if I was on that tribe, like, sure, you could say John is like would probably be a bigger threat down the line. He seemed a lot smarter and a lot more strategic in terms of like down the line, John's a bigger threat, and he's not as good as at challenges as Andy. But like, Andy was like on the ground at the end of the first challenge. You can't contribute much if you can't make it through the challenge. So I don't know. I'm still shocked by that he's still here. Like, what happened?
I mean, after last season with Zelensky, I thought we'd have a Zelensky 2.0. Somehow he's able to survive, credit to him. But I think Andy's someone who has had this reaction, not thinking he was going to have this reaction. He's someone who clearly has pictured the way he plays Survivor for years. But the fact that he's finally now here, it's clearly not what he's thinking. He thinks he's on the bottom of a tribe, which before his meltdown, was he on the bottom? Like, do you guys think he was on the bottom of this tribe, or do you think he was in a good spot?
I think that was an overreaction. I don't think he was on the bottom at all.
I agree with that.
I think
It
he
was
could have
complete.
been, but I don't think it was like it's day 2. Like he hadn't even lost yet at that point. Like, I don't feel like, yeah, that was definitely an overreaction. I think he could have been in trouble possibly, but I think John would have been a more obvious first boot had that not happened. Like, just because of his challenge ability, and like he seemed really strategic. That's somebody I would go for first if I was like, this guy could possibly be a bigger threat. So
We
I don't know.
saw John freaking out for being the oldest person on the tribe, not people on the tribe not knowing what Vine was. So he seemed like he'd be a little bit on the bottom, but Andy clearly just had a freak out. The one thing that roasted out in my mind though was when they were sleeping, he wakes up in the middle of the night, freaking out, begging Rachel to like give him advice. And because Rachel didn't give him advice, he's like, I don't want to work with her anymore. Last season, we saw Ben, who was able to get help from Kenzie and Charlie, work with them because of their ability to comfort him, like when he was having his panic attacks at night. So let's say if you guys are playing Survivor and you were in this situation where you have someone in your tribe freaking out in the middle of the night, how would you handle the situation, like on day 2?
I feel like I would help them from a personal standpoint. Like, I understand Rachel's reservations of like the day prior, like Andy was like, yeah, let's get up early and like talk on the beach and like all these things. So I understand her reservation was already like, I don't want to be this closely associated with anybody. And he seemed like he might be on the outs. So like hitching yourself to somebody who's on the outs is not smart. So I understand why she reacted in the way that she did. I don't know that I would make the same decision because, like, on a personal standpoint, I think I would do what Kenzie was doing. I don't think what Kenzie was doing was game related at all. Especially from like stuff I've heard from her since the show's aired. Like, that's just like what she would have done regardless of if she was playing a game or not. So I feel like I'd probably put myself into that camp. But like, there's a fine line of you are playing a game for $1 million, but also like these are humans. So it's like it's toss up.
See, me personally, I would definitely help Andy in that situation. But I'd also have in the back of my mind that it is a game and that everything matters. Everything is to be looked at. So I think honestly helping him out would have been the best case scenario.
Yeah, so obviously that was something which really determined Andy's motivations to the challenge. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's talk about the other 2 tribes. Let's talk about the blue tribe, which is the Tuku tribe. I believe that's the name of the tribe. What's the initial impressions of the Tuku tribe? We talked about TK and Gabe a little bit, but what about the 6 people in the tribe?
I love Sue and Caroline. I hope that they end up a duo, please. I love Sue. I love to see, someone who's older, kind of like she wasn't an immediate like on the outs. And I feel like a lot of times, especially in the first episode, you see like the oldest person on the tribe, the oldest person in the game being like, well, that person's like an easy first boot. Like they're easily someone who's like probably not going to be good at challenges. Sue picked up that puzzle piece, put it on her shoulders, and was running through the jungle. And I was like, I couldn't do that. And I'm like less than half her age. Like I'd be like falling down with the puzzle piece on top of me. So 1, she really impressed me in the challenge. And 2, She seems like she's situated really well within her tribe, at least from like a first impression standpoint of the first episode, which I love to see, especially for like an older woman. Like they always get the short end of the stick every single time. So I hope she eats this season. And I just really like Caroline from like pregame interviews and stuff like that. So I hope those two can make something happen. I would love to see that.
Yeah, full transparency. I thought Sue was going to be the first boo. I've said that publicly. I was wrong. I think she really impressed me in this episode. I think she's in a good spot. Kristian, what do you think about Sue?
I love Sue. Actually, a little spoiler from before the episode aired, there was a promo with her having the immunity idol, so I kind of knew they won immunity beforehand. Um, but no,
Spoiler.
I think she was good. I liked the little bit with her and Gabe when she was like gonna warn Gabe if anybody was looking, because I'm pretty sure that's what happened, because Gabe told her about the thing.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because we've often seen older women either tend to make it really far. We've seen that with Maria, the Heidi, who else?
Janet.
Janet, Julie in Survivor 45. We've also seen older women tend to go out first. We saw Sue actually be having people on the tribe wanting to work with her this time, which is kind of unique because people like want to work with an older person just because they like have less intensity when it comes to all the drama in this game. So it was really cool to see. Though obviously the big thing about the Blue Tribe has to be Gabe. Gabe finding the beware advantage, making it being able to find it, though he did get caught. How do you guys think he handled the whole situation? We talked about this a little bit ago, but like with Sue, with TK, like he is, I don't know, for three tribal councils, not the entire season. So how do you think Gabe did?
I think he did well, and I especially love his choice of picking the idol good three tribals because of the amount of people that know. He could easily just use it right away. That's what I like about this beware advantage. It like you can have an idol that you can use right away, but you can also risk it for one that you can use in three. So we're probably guaranteed to see stuff get played this season, unlike last season when everybody just went out back to back to back to back. I feel like that's why they did this little risk game. Like the box inside the box. I thought it was interesting.
I think it's interesting if he's going to tell people that he has one, like the people who know that he has been searching, that there's a high possibility he has something. If they don't know that it's only good for 3, like I feel like having an idol that's good till the end of the game is a much bigger target. So I don't know if he should leverage that, like, hey, it's only good for 3 tribals, like I'm literally gonna play it, don't worry about it, then it's back in circulation. Or if like I don't know what's more beneficial for him, knowing that most people know about it and word spreads like wildfire in a tribe of 6. But I do think it was smart of him to have the one that's only good for 3, because I think worst comes to worst, he might need to play it immediately just to get the target off his back. And it's a smaller target. If it's not good through the merge, like what good, how much good can it do you? So spreading that information, like eventually if people are targeting him for having it or potentially having it, I think that could benefit him. I'm interested to see how it plays out, but I think having an idol that's good through the merge is much more threatening. So he might need to leverage that it's not good that long.
Yeah, the more I thought about it, I was really confused and like, why would you not have an idol, which can be done till final 5, which would be the entire season. The more I thought about it, I think it's kind of a smart idea because you saw last season, have an idol in your pocket, you can get voted out with it. If you have an idol for only 3 tribal councils, way less chance to get voted out with the idol, and it also puts a list of a target on your back. If you have an idol the entire season, you're always gonna be paranoid. You should be like, should you play the idol? Should I wait? You don't want to wait till final 5, don't want to wait till final 7, wait till final 9, final 6. But with this idol, you only have 3 chances. And if people think you're going to play your idol, kind of like sense where you are in the tribe, get rid of it immediately, lower the target on your back. So when you get to the merge, you can A, look for another idol, and B, not have the target on your back, which is really enticing. Though I think it's enough to the blue tribe. Let's talk about the red tribe, Lavo, who unfortunately did not get camp supplies, which because of the sweat veer savvy updated the challenge, which I want to get your impressions of. What did you guys think about this new update on the classic new era twist?
It's so much better, at least for me. I was sick of Sweat versus Savvy. Like it felt like we were just doing kind of the same thing over and over again, and inevitably like the outcomes were very similar, and there was always some sort of the same kind of pattern, I felt like, with Sweat and Savvy. So I'm glad they did something different. I don't know that the challenge for your camp supplies is necessary. Like it's a very new era thing, and I feel like they almost have so much going on in the first couple episodes of the new era that I'm like, is this necessary to the show, I feel like this way it was a little bit more because it sent two people from different tribes to meet up. It was almost Journey-esque that they got to meet up. But I liked that it was a challenge. They were competing against each other and it wasn't like independent, but I question if the fight for camp supplies past the first reward challenge is a necessary element in the new era, or if we're kind of beating a dead horse to like get more content. I don't know.
I don't know. I like the new thing as well, but I'm still a big fan of Sweat versus Savvy. I think it created really good moments like the Jelinski hourglass throw. But it is new and the concept was pretty cool. Look at the picture, find the next one, and then find the last one. And I think you got a good moment at the end too when Aisha and TK started fighting for the key.
Yeah. It was really channeling heroes versus villains when Amanda and uh Danielle were fighting, which brought back some good memories. I will say this about Sweat vs. Savvy. I think it really emphasizes the whole gonna earn everything in Survivor's Heart, Survivor's Challenge, like no rights, you're gonna earn everything. I also don't think it adds a lot to the game. It adds a little bit of intrigue in the first episode. This was kind of cool to see because I think Sweat vs. Savvy got a little bit repetitive in the sense because it was like the same type of puzzles, same type of physical challenge. This was like a little bit more random, a little bit more like strategic, and also put the blame on one person. Like Asia kind of was on the started being targeted because she wasn't there. But luckily, she had a Serena Izzy moment when Teeny met Asia, and it was love at first sight, basically. Get it?
Yeah. I
So
do.
thoughts on let's talk about the tribe dynamics. What are your initial thoughts? Who do you think's in a good spot? Who do you think's in a bad spot?
My winner pick Rome's in a terrible spot. He found the beware advantage, got caught, and it was so weird because he like looked like he grabbed something, but he didn't. And I believe it was Aisha that saw him
Mhm.
grab something, but he didn't have it at that point, and then he finds it. And Aisha obviously has good connections built, so I think Rome is like screwed.
Hey, Mr. Gamer.
Yeah, I think again, like similarly, he was kind of just like frantic and panicking. Again, would be me. But I think having like Asia and I think it was like three other people in the tribe, which is literally already a majority of four, like stalking him around trying to figure out what was going on. I think that's a really bad sign for him. I think it would be very easy for those four. I don't know who it was, like Asia,
Oh,
Teeny, Soul, and Kishan.
John, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they were all like following him, and I feel like that's an easy, like, especially if they lose next, the four of them to be like, well, who knows what Rome is doing, and just like vote him off. They have the majority right there. So I do think he's also in trouble. I feel like half the red tribe I don't even know who they are because I feel like the red tribe got like moved past the quickest in the first episode. Like other than Asia and Teeny a little bit and Rome, the rest I feel like kind of just got pushed past. So I'm interested to see like more what their tribe dynamics are if and when they lose and we're forced to see them on our screens because I feel like so many of these people are going to be great characters. I don't know who half of them are.
That's a good way to put it. Obviously, the red tribe was maybe a little underrated, though. I kind of got the impression that we have three duos on the tribe. You have Genevieve and Rome, who seem to be a duo. You have Teeny, who and Keyshawn, who had a really good relationship. Is Teeny's more extroverted, and they want to focus more on the social game. Well, Keyshawn's a little bit more quiet and reserved, so Teeny thinks Keyshawn's a good fit. Then you have Asia and Soul, who by default are a duo. It kind of seems like Keyshawn and Teeny are in the middle because Teeny obviously is very connected to Asia. They don't seem to trust Rome that much. Though in a secret scene, Genevieve specifically said, I don't care if Rome's looking for the idol. We all should be looking for the idol. What do people care? Which is kind of true.
Touche.
Though if I had a tribe mate literally go into the well to look for an idol clue, I'd vote him out immediately. I don't know what you two think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they realized that's exactly what he was doing. But yeah, he got caught looking for the idol, which again, like everybody should be looking for the idol, so it's not like it's that big of a deal, but it's the way he was caught, which almost made it seem like he definitely had a clue or something, like doing very specific things. It's less of like, I am generally looking for the idol, like, okay, so is everybody else. But like, I am specifically looking in this spot where I think I have some reason to believe it might be here. I think is a little bit more of a like a red flag from the rest of the tribe to be like they might have something that is leading them to this exact spot or situation, like jumping headfirst into the water well, is less I'm looking for the idol and is more I know where the idol slash clue slash something is and I need to find it.
Very Jacob Derwin-esque, I'll put it like that. Kristian, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I thought he got the short end of the stick with what he had to do because he had to dump water on logs and then he had to go in the water well. I think that honestly just creates like it's gonna be so much easier to spot him finding something than like what Gabe had to do with cutting down the rope. Although he did get spotted, but I feel like Rome got the short end of the stick with what he had to do.
Being so
Yeah, that was not fun to watch. Well, fun to watch for the viewers, but if I was playing the game, I'd be like, why am I doing this? Seems a little bit kind of like the whole funny word speeches in Survivor 41. It's, I think it just kind of puts the target on his back, though I think him very much screwing up and looking for that was really fun to watch as a viewer.
did nobody on yellow found anything or am I
No,
I
not
know
yet.
one. Yeah. So then let's talk about the immunity challenge, which was kind of a typical, first challenge of Survivor. It did seem like a few tribes were struggling, but in the end, Gatto lost the challenge. Did not see that one coming. What did y'all think of the challenge?
I loved when Jeff said he was like all the boats were sinking and he was like people everywhere, paddles everywhere, pieces everywhere. I thought that was really funny because it was like a comedy of errors almost to watch like a boat sink and then the pieces float away and the paddles and people are like scrambling and trying to like bail the water out of the boat. um it looked hard to balance. The boats looked like really like topsy-turvy and you had these giant pieces and like 6 people. I feel like it was inevitable that somebody was going to go down, but I thought it was just really funny that like at all at once everybody was in the water, things were everywhere. But yeah, it looked very difficult to get everything in the boat and to the shore, but as far as puzzles go from like very early merge or very early pre-merge stages, this puzzle seemed very doable. I feel like it was one of the easier ones. I think the difficulty came with getting everybody and all the pieces to the shore.
Yeah, I have to agree. I thought it was a fun challenge to watch. I love the overhead shot when they cut to commercial or when they came back when everything was everywhere. The boats were designed a little differently, and I think they were designed to tip easier. Another thing I thought was a little weird about the challenge is when Red got to shore, they solved the puzzle like that. They like cut immediately to it being solved, which is so weird. There was no struggling with Red. Um, and
See,
yeah, I thought it
I
was a
have a
good
theory.
first. Was that
I have a theory on why Red was so fast on the puzzle.
why?
I think they're the only ones who knew how to actually use a belt. I think it was just classic Survivor editing. They
Yeah,
clearly were ahead the entire time. They
yeah,
probably just wanted to like save time in the edit and show it to them, but it
that's what
seemed
I'm
like
thinking as well.
It was Red's time to lose. The other two were clearly struggling, but Red was clearly taking the advantage. So the biggest moment of the challenge was Andy passing out. Who would have thought? Classic Andy.
I gave everything, Jeff. That was great.
Yeah, we
I
saw Jeff in classic Jeff mode, like yelling at everyone they suck, saying how terrible they all are. But then going to like supportive dad mode, being like, Andy, you okay? The game's not over yet. You gotta like do better. So like that was really interesting to see.
I don't know what was the bigger cause of his problems, if it was that he was overheated or if it was that he realized that they might lose and went into a panic and then it would just spiraled from there. Like I don't know what started the spiral, was if it was like a physical like I'm overheating and we're going to lose and oh my god, or if it was like the mental thing switched first and then he was like in so much of a panic that then the physicals kind of took over. I'd like be interested to know like in his mind like how that happened or if like he's said that anywhere. That would be like really interesting to me, but yeah, I couldn't at first I didn't know what was happening when Jeff was like, do you need medical? Do you need medical? And he was just like not saying anything. But I'm glad they were like, okay, medical, like kind of figuring it out. I think the medical team on Survivor always pops off. They're doing the most out there. So I'm always mad props to Survivor Medical because that must be like a crazy job, especially with like we've had very serious like medical things happen in previous Survivor seasons of like obviously this wasn't he was fine, but sometimes when like crazy things go down, like mad props to that medical team for they're always on the ball.
And Dr. Joe's back.
Yes,
I was gonna say Dr. Joe finally being back after a few years off. It was good to see him. Yeah, I was kind of confused. I couldn't tell if it was a panic attack, if he was just like in shock, if he was actually overheating. Obviously, this happened in Survivor, but it is a scary situation thinking you might go home. Though I don't know what it was. Like, do you think just if you had to like take a guess, do you think it's overheating or do you think it was like a panic attack?
I think it has to do with the night when he started panicking. I don't think he had a good sleep, and then probably went into the immunity challenge, just eating himself up, and then the drama of them losing so badly. I think it all just came. I think it was more of a mental thing than a physical thing.
Ava, what do you think?
I do too, because he was fine like almost immediately. In terms of like physically, it seemed like there wasn't actually any concern for his safety. Um, so I think if it was more of like a like he has heat stroke or something, like I don't think it ever would have gotten that bad, but like I think there would have been more concern from medical than if it was like a mental thing of like his life is actually not in danger, it's just like a mental thing. I don't know, but I don't again, that would be so something that would happen to me. So there's no judgment, but then he like goes forward to like proceed to blow up his entire game at the end of the challenge, which I think is what for me more than like, okay, like you had a moment, but instead of like rebounding and just staying quiet, because like that one, like just stay quiet, he decided to like blow up his entire game in front of everybody. I think that's where like for me, I was like, what? That was so dumb.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. So after they lose the challenge, they're all on the mat. Jeff is like, got him. What happened? Why'd you guys lose the challenge? And Andy spills everything on like what, day 2, day 3. If you, let's say if this happened in Survivor MSU, how would y'all react? Like, how mad would you be at that person?
They're going home.
Yeah,
First thought.
for sure. It's yeah, like it's more about what he did after the challenge than like the issue of like he had a moment during the challenge and like that is not what would have sent him home from my perspective. It's that instead of okay, that's over, like let's just get out of here and go back to camp instead of just like staying quiet, he decided to like blurt out everything he's ever thought ever. And like it was very over dramatized of him being like, nobody supported me when I opened the coconut. Like, what? That's so silly.
So
Yeah.
silly was an understatement. Kristian, go ahead.
Oh, I thought it was interesting that when he was like blowing everything up, he blew up his own plans as well and what he was gonna do and going after John, his best friend in the game. I feel like that was just so stupid.
Yeah, why would you throw your number one ally under the bus, telling the entire cast who your number one ally is on day 3 when they haven't even met you yet?
Yeah,
He
it did them a good favor. It did Survivor a good favor though, because they got the easy vote set up. So that was a nice little like setup going into the vote.
But you have to think, what was Andy's like motives there? Because realistically, his goal should be to like survive the tribe, which he did. But now he's the biggest target on his back as the entire tribe. No, not tribe, the entire cast thinks he's a liability. Like, wouldn't y'all think if someone was that willing to spill their secrets this early in their game, they'd be willing to do that the entire season?
Yeah, and even if somehow like Yellow goes on a winning streak or something and he survives to merge, like in some crazy world, everybody's going to be like, why is this guy still here? Like we can't keep him around because and he met John like 2 days before. He was also talking about John as though they were lifelong friends, which I always this is like kind of a Survivor thing, but I always think it's silly. He's like, my best friend John, as though like you didn't just meet and John probably wants to send you home at this point. So I just feel like he made a series of really poor choices about what he was saying. And the fact that he didn't go home, like, I don't know what world, what happened, but I feel like Yellow's gonna live to regret the day that they kept Andy in the game because who knows what he's gonna do. Like at the next challenge, he could be like, oh yeah, well, this and this happened, and this is exactly how John went home, and it'd be like, what is happening?
Yeah, I was in shock when he did that. I just still can't. As someone who's a student of the game, who is a Rob Has a Podcast patron, who is a multiple time Survivor finalist, finally for terms of casting, finally was able to make the cast, and he does all of this before the first tribal. Like, it's insane to me. So obviously, Gata goes back into their camp, has to vote somebody out. I don't think Andy does that bad of a job, though. I think he does a decent job of getting the target off of his bag. Like, I think he explained himself pretty well. He was honest. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was good. But I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. He kind of let all the other people tank their own games. He just sat back and watched. Like John immediately went after Annika, and honestly, that's what tanked this game. But yeah, no, Andy did a really good job at taking the target off his back.
But let's talk about the fact that John decided to make a move to get Annika out. Bit of an interesting idea because obviously just Andy's such an obvious target, but John does know he is loyal to him, so it does make sense for him to try to save John. Do you think that was smart of John's end? Obviously, it's why he got voted out, but do you think had it been able to work out, it would have been a good first game long term?
I don't think so because even like, yeah, maybe you think Andy will keep you around for a little bit, but the man threw you under the bus 30 minutes ago standing on the mat. So it's not like he can say, "Oh, you're my best friend in the game," all he wants, but he was willing to throw you under the bus. It wasn't just, "Oh, I thought about throwing you under the bus," and telling you that in a one-on-one conversation. It's standing in front of all 18 people saying, "Yeah, my best friend in this game, John, I was about to just throw him under the bus." Like, that's such a liability, and like you don't want to be connected to that anyways. So if I was John, I'd be like, "See ya." Like, I don't want to be connected to the number one liability, and you threw me under the bus an hour ago. So John made a huge mistake, I think, trying to go after Annika. But like, I get where he was coming from. But if I was in that position, like, bye, Andy. Like, I don't want to be connected to somebody who is like that much of a train wreck and a loose cannon. And on day 3, like, this isn't day 25. Like, this is day 3, and he's already shoving everybody off. Like, I would have cut him loose, to be honest.
Christian, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't like that John did that because again, he got thrown under the bus by his best friend and then he was gonna align with his best friend again. And I think honestly that was just a dumb move and it cost him the game. However, had he have done it, he would have been in a majority if it worked. And who's to say he wouldn't be the second to get voted off if they just did Andy?
I mean, I think it does make sense for him to like put himself in a better position. Though if it's that easy of a boot, you have to be very careful when you do try to like flip the vote. If it's yes, it is Andy, but who is kind of such an obvious target. At the same time, though, you have to think realistically in New Era Survivor, there's not a lot of swaps. There's only been like one tribe swap, I believe, officially, plus Survivor 44, in which a few people swap tribes as well. Tribe strength is important. We saw in Survivor 41, the blue tribe, I forget the name of the tribe, won all the challenges. So they were all in a good spot when it came to the merge. So just needs to like think realistically, I'm a weaker liability on this tribe. I gotta make sure if I'm gonna survive this vote, I have to make sure they're not gonna want to vote out the strongest guy in the tribe, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Though I will say I think he did a bad job of approaching who he should have approached. I don't think he realized how Sam was not with him at all. Sam actually really impressed me throughout this episode. I think he's such in a good spot on the tribe. He's very close with the girls. He's very close with the guys. He's kind of put himself in this middle spot. So no one's really initially targeting him, but he still can like lie and choose his own path.
Yeah, I think Sam and Sierra are in the best spot in terms of the tribe. Like, I get why John would fear that if Andy went, he would be next, but I think it wasn't just like, "Oh, Andy is like the weak link or whatever, let's send him home." It was all of these things that led to Andy being the target. I think there's a difference between like, "Oh, it's just like kind of a random first boot they've decided and I'm next," or like, "For XYZ, here's a plethora of reasons why Andy needs to go." Trying to flip the vote in those two situations are very different. I just think he should have realized that like he needed to either hop on board or he was going to get targeted, and clearly he didn't realize that soon enough or at all.
Yeah, I thought Sam was honestly the winner of the episode. He set himself up the best on his tribe. He's good with the girls. He's also good with Andy. I don't think he'll ever get voted out of the Yellow Tribe unless an idol came into play. So
I agree. I think he's in a fantastic spot. So the vote really came down between, do you want to keep the tribe strong, who might keep the strategic liability in Andy, or keep the I mean, let me re-say that. Keep the tribe strong and take out a strategic liability in John, which we want to take out the biggest liability on the board socially and strategically in Andy, but making our tribe weaker and keeping John as probably the weakest man on the tribe. Do you think it was a smart decision to take out John because of this whole like idea?
I think perhaps it was not the worst move because John is for me, John, the reason I would have voted out John is a strategic threat. You could tell at Tribal, you could tell in his answers to Jeff, he knew the game and he wasn't dumb. And so keeping someone around like that, I think can be dangerous. However, it's week 1. Like, it's not like we're merging tomorrow. Like, how much damage can he really do so far? And I think saying that he was like not good in challenges, I think was also a little bit of an like selling him short. Like, sure, it's not like he was gonna be brute strength like Andy. Like, he didn't really screw up the challenge. And I don't know, like some of the girls were really good at puzzles, but I don't know that he's any like physically weaker than them. So I feel like it was a little bit of like grasping at straws for why to get rid of him. Like, I think there was a missing link in the actual editing of the episode as to like why really that happened. For me at least, I'm a little confused as to how we got there. Obviously, we're watching 2 hours out of these people's 3 days, so I'm sure there was more to it, but like from a viewer standpoint, like, I'm not fully sold that the Yellow Tribe made the correct decision when they're moving forward with someone who can blow up at a challenge everybody's game. Talking about what happened at Tribals, especially as we keep moving forward, if they keep losing and they have someone who's willing to just blurt out information. For me, on day 3, that's far more dangerous than like a possible person who's not as great at challenges and is a strategic threat, because John didn't like blow the challenge by any means. Like, it's not like he's the reason they lost.
yeah, I agree with the grasping at straws. Like that challenge, they all sucked in my opinion, and you can't really base tribe strength off of one challenge. With that being said, I do think they made the wrong decision because of the social disaster that Andy is. That he's a ticking time bomb and can blow up at any time. I honestly, you got to get that right out of the way right away, and then get John next if need be. So I think they made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I've one thing I do think is kind of understated in Survivor. Challenges tend to get less physical as they go closer and closer to the merge. So I don't really think choosing to choose people who are good at challenges this early in the game is always the best idea. Especially because Andy hasn't really proved himself. He kind of like flamed out in the first challenge. Like, he literally could not finish a challenge. And you're saying he is the strongest guy in the tribe. Like, not the best look for the whole tribe dynamic. Though unfortunately, John was voted out 5-1. Of the first boots, I'm kind of curious, like, how good do you think that he is of a first boot? Do you think he's one of the better strategic first boots? Do you think he's one of the more memorable ones? Like, where would he be in your rankings?
I
I think he was. I'm gonna go mid. He was great strategically. One of the better strategic first boots. Wasn't that iconic? Not like Jelinski or Zane. I'll have him as like a
Second
20th
Morris.
and Reem.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
yeah, good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd have him in the middle too. Was watching a TikTok and I thought it was really interesting. This girl was like analyzing the possibility of ever having a first boot season and was saying that John going first kind of increased the odds that that would ever happen because it's somebody people would want to see back. So for me, he does stick out as somebody who was like could have done really well. Like, kind of got the short end of the stick in just like a series of unfortunate events for his tribe. And because a lot of times I feel like first boots have a bigger reason why they went home. Or if it was like pure luck, it was like, well, we don't really care either way. Like, we don't get to see a lot of them. I think a lot of people felt very strongly that John like deserved better. So I do think it's an interesting take to think that he might increase the odds of first boot season. I don't know that Survivor would ever do that because I feel like a lot of them I don't remember. So I don't know how much viewership that would coin, but I do feel like he's somebody who sticks out to me. I don't know if it's that like he was some great player, if it was just like because of exactly what happened in the series of events. Like, he sticks out to me as somebody who I feel like really got the short end of just a series of unfortunate events that kind of had to do with him and kind of happened around him, and he just got like tornadoed out the door. So I do feel bad. I wish we got to see John more.
Definitely one of the more strategic first boots we had. I think he's someone who, if he was on a different tribe, different season, could do a lot better. Though I kind of like saw him kind of similar to like a David Wright or like a Mike White archetype was. This are both also writers, both also kind of older men with a little bit of experience in the entertainment industry. I'm kind of curious. Like, let's say if he's on a season like a David vs. Goliath, on a Millennials vs. Gen X, like an older school season, how would John do compared to Survivor 47?
I think John would do better with a bigger tribe, honestly.
Yeah. I think
Oh god.
I think he had a lot of potential, and I think a lot of times people who go first on their tribe or who go that early do have a lot of potential, and again, it's just some series of events that have led them to this point. I think even if he was on a different tribe this season, or just like things shook out just a little bit differently, like, he has a lot of potential. He could have done really well. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's Survivor. Like, one wrong decision, or like, Survivor is in a little bit of a sense luck. Like, sometimes you just have bad luck of like, your tribe all collectively were terrible at the challenge. It wasn't your fault, it wasn't anybody's fault why the tribe necessarily lost, but like, I think it was just a series of like small errors on his part and a lot of bad luck, and Andy somehow like doing whatever the heck he did to stay. I just think, yeah, I feel like, of course, he has a lot of potential. I think that can be said about a lot of people who go that early, but he sticks out to me as someone who could have done really well, but just a series of unfortunate events for him.
Yeah, definitely one of those shown to have a really good strategic mind. I think is someone who could have done really well. Unfortunately, he was the first boot. So that was concludes the episode. Any thoughts for the next episode? Thoughts for the season as a whole? Like, what do you think is going to happen in the next few episodes? Any like hot takes?
Mm.
Um, let's see.
I don't remember the scenes from our next episode that well, so I'm trying to think if anything stood out.
My hot
apparently
take,
Andy's
surprise.
gonna drop a bomb or something like that.
I was going to say I think Andy's going to find the beware advantage.
Honestly, I want Andy to go. Like, he's good TV, but I feel like I blame him for John's exit, and I want John to be avenged.
I yeah, I agree with that. I would say
My hot take is we're gonna get a pre-merge idol out of the game. Like somebody's gonna use it and somebody's gonna go home because of an idol out. So I think Rome's gonna end up finding it, and I think he's gonna use it as first tribal and get like someone like Keyshawn or Aisha out of the game.
I need Asia to do well. But yeah, I agree with that. I think an idol is going to get played. I honestly think Andy might be in a better spot than we realized. We saw like Emily Flippin a few seasons ago do so bad at first and end up making like what, seventh place in that season. We've seen people being able to do good. Like Holly Hoffman had a meltdown in Survivor Nicaragua. Aubrey Bracco had a meltdown in Survivor Co. Wrong. I don't think it's over for him yet. Like, I don't think he's necessarily he's in a bad spot. Like, full transparency, he could barely well be the next boot of all time. He also make a a good chance to win, so we'll see what happens. So before we conclude the episode today, I do want to ask you two a question. So at the start of the episode, the first line, the first quote of the season was, by Gabe, I want to be in the Mount Rushmore of the new era. So I thought it'd be fun for the three of us to all say who is currently on our Mount Rushmore. Do you think anyone in the season is gonna like take their place just for the new era alone?
Gotcha.
I know I have my list. Do you guys want to take a minute to think about it?
Yeah, give me a minute. I got like
Yeah.
3 out of 4.
So for me, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think you have to put Carolyn Weiger on that list. Maybe the biggest character Survivor has ever had, one of the best losing zero vote finalists ever. She kind of like started the whole archetype of people not taking her seriously, but still making them being strategic as well. She knew the game really well, so I think she's for sure on the Mount Rushmore. I also have to put Jam Jam, probably the best character winner we've had in a long time. I think Marianne was close to being in that for as a good character, but I think Jam Jam really takes the cake. People just like say, oh, it's just Jam Jam, just Jam Jam. But he had a fantastic social strategic game, so he's on my four. Next up, I actually have D. I think D is probably the best new era player by far. Kind of like the first dominant winner we've had in a while. She was really strategic, really good at the whole game, all the aspects of it. I think she's probably one of the best players of all time, frankly. And I think if she were to play again, will do really well. I also heard she might go in the challenge, so we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Though finally, I think we have to put Q on that Mount Rushmore. Like, come on, it's Q. Like, I think there's no player who's made that big of an impact in one season. I'm not the biggest Q fan out there. I like Q, but I don't think I'm not as big a fan as like Kristian. But I think Q is genuinely one of the best television characters we've ever had. He's going to be great on Survivor 50. I'll put it like that.
Kristian, you
All
go.
right, I'll go next. So obviously I'm gonna go Key right off the bat. He's the most iconic new era player. I honestly think he was just a boss. He was a mob boss. Um, for second, I'm gonna go D. D's easily the most dominant winner that we've seen in a long time. Probably one of the more dominant female winners, like Kim. Um, for third, I'll go with it's a toss up. I'll go with Marianne. I thought Marianne was good. It was between her and Carolyn. Um, I'll go Marianne. I thought she had a good season, good story. And then for fourth, Ryan, you're gonna hate me, but I'm putting Mike Gabler on the new era of Mount Rushmore. He was so good. His strategy was so good. He donated the $1 million away. He's so iconic.
Good for him.
So,
Jesse should have won. Cassidy was robbed.
Mike Gabler.
I have both Carolyn and Marianne. So I'm like mixed your two lists kind of. I feel yeah, the fact that Carolyn didn't get any votes in the final is insane to me. To me she should have beat Yam Yam, but that's also just like I wanted to see a female winner and I just loved her so much. But I understand why Yam Yam won. Like for me it was a toss up, but the fact that she got no votes was kind of crazy to me. And then yeah, Marianne I feel like was just like the epitome of a new era winner, of somebody who was not like a winner we've seen before. In comparison to like the other new era winners, I feel like they were all like they could have won in another era, and I think Marianne stood out as like a different winner. I also have D. I love Dee. I feel like she was also one of like she's probably the most dominant winner of the new era. And I feel like she could have been successful in other eras, and that's why I kind of differently than Marianne. And my fourth is Jesse. Neither one of you mentioned him, but I loved Jesse. I'm not a Gabler fan either. I do think it was very commendable that he donated the $1 million. That was the only reason that I was okay with that. As I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But I do think Jesse was robbed, and I feel like he has to be on my Mount Rushmore. And then you asked if anybody from this season was going to be on it, and I feel like it's far too early to tell. But
If you were to guess one person from this cast, who do you think would be it? Just on episode 1 alone.
Asia.
Just off of episode 1, I would say TK, but I just don't think I don't know. I'll go TK right now.
I want to say Asia. I think it really could well be Asia. I'm gonna go with Teeny. I think Teeny is gonna surprise a lot of people. I think they know the game very well. They are an online Survivor player, very
Oh,
active
I
in
feel
the
that.
community. They are a very active order. Put it like
Oh,
that.
interesting.
So I think they're gonna surprise a lot of people. I think they're a lot more extroverted than they come off. So should be pretty fun. Yeah, so that concludes the Spartans Have Spoken podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week for episode 2 with this very special guest. Take care. See y'all next week.
Bye.